Joining me today on GHT Coffee Break will be Angie Wheelis, a counselor at Georgia Highlands College. Get your coffee. We'll be right back.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to GHC Coffee Break. I'm very excited about my guest today, Angie Wheelis, who is a friend and colleague at Georgia Highlands. She is in the counseling department. I know you're on the Rome campus and I believe the Douglasville campus.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah. And there's other counselors
on all the other campuses.
On all the other campuses.
Yes.
So it's really important, I think, for our students in particular to know that they can access counseling services on any campus.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, we are going to talk about kind of a heavy-hitting subject to me. Gosh, September's filled with heavy-hitting awareness months, but suicide. And it's like the big elephant in the room. Nobody wants to talk about it.
Right.
Oh, if we don't talk about it, it won't happen. You know,
right.
And what a myth that is.
Right.
So hopefully through our conversation we can help bring information to our listening audience, but also to really make it not such a scary subject.
Right.
To let them know that there is help. There's some things that we can do to prevent. There's some things that we can do to intervene.
Right.
And my specialty area, I know you're on the prevention and the intervention side as a counselor, is the postvention. What do you do after something like that's happened?
Absolutely.
And Georgia Highlands is I'm very appreciative of them, because we have a SOS, Survivor Suicide Group, Healing Hearts. It's out of the Floyd Coalition on Children and Youth. But the Healing Hearts group that meets on the fourth Tuesday of every month, and it's for people who have lost someone to suicide. Some family member or close person has died by suicide, and they come in and we meet. Georgia Highlands has been very supportive of that, and I can't tell them how much I appreciate that. We actually meet at Heritage Hall in HH 263.
Nice.
So on the postvention side, we do have help, but let's talk a little bit more on your side, the prevention and, of course, the intervention side.
Good. Well, thank you for having me, Susan. It's always so good to be here with you. And September is always a big month. You know, we're remembering 9/11, post 9/11 events.
Katrina, it's been 10 years ago.
That's right, August 29th, Katrina. And now suicide prevention for the month of September. So in Georgia Highlands, all the colleges for the week of the 8th, 7th is Memorial Day, so it's Tuesday. The 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. That week, on all the campuses, we're going to have some events set up. Kind of gentle, almost reverent events set up where we're going to have Mardi Gras beads with meaning, and I wore my beads today.
Yeah.
So if you walk,
I
didn't bring. I apologize. I'll have to send them to you. But Mardi Gras beads with meaning, we're going to have these set up on all the campuses. So I want your listeners just to be aware, if they see the Mardi Gras beads, make sure they step in and see what's going on there. And at the table, there'll be some signs set up and some counselors set up as well, if anyone wants to talk about their experiences, whether themselves or maybe losing someone to suicide. For example, when you walk by and you see the purple bead, it's in memory of someone who has died by suicide. You take this bead if you've lost someone that you love to suicide. As a matter of fact, I'm wearing purple today in honor of my friend who died by suicide, and I'm wearing this in her honor. So the purple bead means you've lost someone that is very special to you to suicide. The green bead, if you see a green bead, you want to pick it up and put it on. This says, I struggle with some type of mental illness myself, like depression, anxiety, things along that nature. And you just want to be able to share that and put that bead on just to make the awareness around for that. And if the other two don't apply or all three apply, you can pick the gold bead, which says, I support the cause, suicide prevention. I'm right there with you, and I support the cause. Also on the table, we're going to have some brochures and some cards that people can pick up. We have one brochure that we have in English and in Spanish. It says, are you or someone you love at risk for suicide? And inside has the list, the risk factors, and some factors that if you see them in yourself or someone else, to get immediate help. So those are written in here as well. My favorite thing, however, is for our veteran population. We have a lot of student veterans on our campus.
Absolutely.
And we have a lot of students who have family members in the military. My son just got back from a tour through.
Yes,
He's a Navy nuke now. We're so proud of him.
what? A Navy?
Navy nuke. He's a nuclear engineer.
Okay.
He just finished the school.
Just wanted to know.
He's a Navy nuke. And anyway, my heart goes out to our veterans and our veterans' families. And so this is something that's really near and dear to my heart. We'll have a lot of veteran crisis line cards on the table.
Good.
And just encourage, it takes the strength of a warrior to ask for help.
Yes.
And so the cards that they have now, they've changed it around. It's hard, it's almost like a credit card, and they can put it in their backpacks or in their wallets and keep it with them. On one side, it has the veteran crisis line, and the crisis line is a suicide prevention line, but it's unique to the veterans. 1-800-273-8255, and when they call that number, immediately press 1 and you go straight to another veteran. So it's a vet talking to a vet, straight on some tough issues, and just calling out what's going on without having to just go through someone who has no idea the language they're speaking or the difficulties that they're feeling. So that's really important there. So these are some of the things we'll have on our campuses, and we're looking forward to being bold and starting the conversation with people about suicide prevention. It's very important.
Yeah, and I think it's great that we're doing it as a college because, again, it goes back to what I said at the beginning of our show is people they think if you don't talk about it, it doesn't happen, or that if you do talk about it, you'll cause it to happen.
Right.
And the reality is if we can actually address it, we are better off.
Right.
Pretending it's not there doesn't mean it's not there.
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of times suicidal ideation will come from a mental illness that's going on, okay, or a mental distress. Usually depression. A lot of depression will lead to suicidal ideation. Not to say that if someone's depressed, they're automatically suicidal.
Right.
Not at all. But just to keep an eye out when someone's feeling depressed. And 90% of the students that come into our counseling centers on college counseling is for depression and anxiety. Okay, there's a lot of new stressors going on, a lot of classes. They're working, they have children, maybe if they have children, or they're taking care of their family, and there's a lot of stress going on, and it could possibly lead to depression, which could possibly lead to suicidal ideation. So we want to keep an eye on that.
And that's the thing. One of the some research I was reading recently on colleges that it is the second leading cause of death in college-age students.
Absolutely.
Now it's even higher in non-college-age students.
Right.
I mean, college-age students that are not in college.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Yes. Yes.
So being in college does seem to kind of help diminish some of that.
Right.
I think just because it's giving them, and I can think of a person that was was going to college, tended to do a lot of self-harm over the years, graduated from one college and was going to another college, did not have that same support, and when she left one college to go to the other college, she had that support of, you got something else to do.
Okay.
But then when she got ready to graduate with her bachelor's degree, she ultimately did harm herself because of a lot of abuse that was going on. She did die.
Okay.
They said it wasn't because of the attempt as much as it was the continual abuse through the years. Her heart failed.
Oh, wow.
But there's was a direct correlation of her, while she was in school, she was at less risk because she had those, this is what I need to do, this is what I'm going to do, I have goals, but then all of a sudden she got to this end point a week before graduation.
Kind of got scary.
Yeah, what do I do now?
Scary, right.
So I think maybe that's part of, and the CDC doesn't necessarily report if someone's in college. Or, there's not
Right.
that data.
Right. Differentiates the two. Yeah.
So when we say
populations.
number 2 leading cause of that age population, that's pretty powerful to me.
It is pretty powerful. 18 to 24 years old. That's the second leading. Suicide is the second leading cause of death.
Yes.
And the first leading cause is interesting. It's accidents.
Yeah.
And who's to say that reckless behavior or recklessness, not intending to die, but they just kind of go a little bit too far?
High risk behaviors.
Absolutely, which is one of the risk factors for suicidal thoughts. Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing with suicide ideation. It's not so much that a lot of people have those thoughts. I just wish I was dead. Nobody cares.
Right.
That doesn't mean that it's going to lead you actually to completing or attempting suicide.
Right.
But that if you do have those thoughts, it's really important to get to someone to talk to them,
Right.
to talk about it.
Right, check in. This is kind of an interesting thing. This week alone, it's just Thursday, but this week alone, I've met with over 4, maybe 5 students, 5, okay, who have had thoughts of suicide. And we did some evaluations, we did some assessments in the counseling room, and we're able to show them, okay, these are some thoughts that you're having, these are some symptoms that you're showing. A couple have had just thoughts before. One has had a previous attempt before. One has been hospitalized before. So these are also some bigger flags moving forward to, okay, we need to work on some, not only your suicidal thoughts, but let's touch base on your depression and your anxiety. Is there some medication that your doctor has prescribed to you? Are you taking it?
Yeah.
Are you sleeping? Are you staying up for 3 days in a row? FYI, if you don't get any rest for over 72 hours, you will have a psychotic break. Just to let you know, your brain will shut you down if you don't get sleep. Are you eating? A lot of times our college students just forget to eat, especially if they're depressed. You don't have an appetite.
Right.
So these are some things that we walk alongside of them, just very aggressively checking in on them, just to check in on their mental health and their mental state while they're a student.
And asking the question, I do QPR training, and one of the things that almost every time people in the class will say, but how do I ask the question? If I ask, I'm afraid that it'll make, if they hadn't thought about it before, they're going to think about it. And what the reality is if you have warning signs that you need to ask the question, they've already thought about it.
Right.
And if they haven't, they're going to be very willing to say, well, no. But what you've done is you opened the door.
Right.
Angie, I'm hearing a lot what's going on. Are you thinking of harming yourself? And then you've already said, okay, Susan can listen to what I'm going to say.
Right.
She's asked me what's going on.
Right.
And it's not, because if you go, you're not thinking of harming yourself, are you?
Right.
You've already set it
Put
up.
them on the defensive.
I don't.
Oh, well.
No, well, heck no, of course not. I'm not thinking of doing that. But
Right.
you've already put them into that place of, I can't talk to her about this.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That's an important thing to remember. It's a myth to think if we talk about it, they'll do it. But the actual opposite is true. When you talk about it, you've opened up the door for the conversation. Okay? Maybe they're alone, or they are having these thoughts while they're by themselves, and they stroke that thought. But once you open up the veil, get the sun in on their thoughts, what's going on, it dissipates a bit. And it gives them a chance to, okay, I trust this person cares about me.
Right.
They really care about me. So, okay, I'm not as hopeless as I thought I was. I don't loathe myself. Maybe someone else doesn't loathe me. They really care, and they'll reach out for help. And that stroking of the secret will dissipate.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good way of looking at it. One of the things, and I can't take credit for it, but if we fill our cup with water, and you put one more drop and suddenly that cup overflows. What made the cup overflow? Most people want to say that last drop, but the reality is it's all of the drops that were there before, because we haven't learned to empty our cup. So we've got to teach people that instead of letting it get to here and that last drop, maybe I got an F on my paper,
Right.
be that last drop. It's all of these other things that happened before that normally might not have made the cup overflow. So we'll come back to that. We've got to take a break. Get your coffee, and we'll be right back with GHC Coffee Break.
I'm transferring to the University of West Georgia.
Columbia University.
Kennesaw State,
UGA, Loyola University in Chicago,
Grambling State.
Shorter University. I'm going to Greensboro College, and we all got our start at Georgia Highlands.
No matter where your educational journey takes you, you can get your start at Georgia Highlands College. Georgia Highlands College. Enroll, engage, excel.
Welcome back to GHC Coffee Break. Again, joining me is Angie Wheelis, the counselor at Georgia Highlands College on the Roman Douglasville campus. We're talking about a pretty hard-hitting subject. People don't really like to talk about it, suicide. I think we left kind of off, ran out of time for a moment, but we're back with the empty cup, or the emptying our cup. And during the break, you and I were talking, a lot of times the assumption is that F, or that girl that dumped me, I believe you said, or any one thing, if we can kind of blame it on that last piece, it makes sense. But in reality it wasn't the last drop. It literally was not teaching people how to empty their cup before it gets to that one last drop.
Right.
So.
When you were sharing those stories, this illustration I love, just hearing across the couch from students who are coming in counseling sessions, their cups are full, and the semester has just begun, okay? It's full of family situations, past abuse, difficulties in relationships, maybe the relationships that are really rough, or maybe even domestic violence situation that they haven't shared with anyone. And so when they're in a classroom and they can't focus on the test, or the professor returns a paper with some red marking on there, they flip, and it's that last drop in the cup, and it goes over. Yeah.
So if we could have taught them strategies, coping strategies, before it got to that last drop. And one of the things, Angie, and actually I'm probably surprising you because I already shared this, but one of the things when I did some QPR training with some faculty and staff during our in-service day, thank you, brain freeze, sources of strength. And I know you utilize it. I've given you the, I think the mouse pad, and I think you still have some stuff. And there's some floating around. I know that to me it's just a powerful message. And it's looking at this piece of pie. Family. Positive peers, mentors, healthy activities, spirituality, generosity, access to health care. Now, some of those things we cannot control. I can't control who my family is. But what we can do is look at where are your strengths and help the students find, or I say students because we're in college, but I think that's true with faculty, staff, friends, colleagues, acquaintances, helping them find what are your sources of strength. Oh, well, I have really good family ties, but I really don't have a lot of positive friends. Maybe I'm not hanging around the right people. Or I'm very spiritual, but my family doesn't support me on anything I do. I'm having to do this all by myself. Like I said, there's some things we can't control, but if we know what our strengths are, we can build on those. And who's to say that by building on the strengths that we do have doesn't help us move into pulling some of the new strengths.
Absolutely.
So I love that, the sources of strength, and it is tried and true research. I know that in Rome, Floyd County schools, a lot of teachers have gone through the sources of strength training in Savannah this summer, and they're really looking at instigating it or putting it into the schools, the high schools. I think that's really important. I know Cobb County, some of the schools have done that. There's actually, if you go on the Sources of Strength website, it's called Harrison. Lip Dub, and the whole school got together. You need to check it out if you haven't ever seen it. The whole school, 1,000+ students on a Saturday, went and filmed this lip dub. Get a chance, look it up. It's really great. Sourcesofstrength.org, and then there's several videos, but look for the Harrison dub. So there's a lot of schools that are recognizing, because it is evidence-based. It is research that says if we can help students or help people identify and grow their strengths, and Emil Durkheim, let's go way back in sociology. You know, his study said the stronger supports you had, the least likely you were to complete suicide. The less supports you have, the more likely you were to complete suicide.
I believe that. I definitely I believe that even from being in the room with the person who's struggling. Quite often they can't find an area that they like about themselves, or they have a strength, or can't even think of a strength that they possess. Quite often they're hopeless, no ability to see the next step, and they think there's no way out in this particular situation. So the only thing I can do right now is just end my life. And so when they get to that point, it's kind of scary. And it does take people on the outside, friends, neighbors, teachers, faculty, staff, to step in and say, hey, let's look at some of your strengths. You are an awesome connector of people. I've seen you in the hallway. You're an awesome connector of people. You're good. You're a good writer. Or I've seen your artwork. You have a fantastic ability to see beauty in things that are broken. Or some speak some kind of strength into someone when they are not there.
We all have something.
Right.
Sometimes it's harder to find.
Right.
But we have it.
Right.
And it's just pulling that out. Obviously, the goal is to prevent suicide.
Right.
It is the most preventable cause of death.
Absolutely.
And to have these kind of conversations. But making that connection, that one connection can literally make a difference in someone's life.
It really does. And even in this conversation right here, I think how important it is for students, faculty, and staff to hear the message of intentionally looking for good in others and speaking it into them. Because you never know if that person in their internal conversation is, you know, no one even recognized that I was here in class today. If I wasn't here, no one would miss me. I'm just going to go to my car and end my life, okay? So if we can all intentionally speak into each other's lives and of encouragement, of strength, of recognizing, hey, thanks for sitting next to me. I felt kind of lonely over here. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you.
And I know it sounds so childish, but there's a book, Everything I Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten.
Right.
Love that book. Have you ever?
I've heard it. I haven't read it.
Oh, you need to. It's a good one to have on your shelf and to read. But one of the things, you know, the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Right. It sounds so childish, but as an adult, if we really truly, when I look at all of the hurt, and watch the news 5 minutes, and you see the pain of people.
Just this morning, some difficult things going on. Shootings. I
might have missed this morning. Yesterday was the two reporters who were killed, and then the man ultimately killed himself because he said he felt like they were racist and he was homosexual. So you know, he got angry, and then this was a year later. He killed the two reporters, and then he killed himself ultimately. This man was hurting. Right. If we really truly believed that every person mattered,
absolutely.
Just think of the difference. And maybe I'm just a child at heart, because I feel like if I can be kind to someone else, that pay that forward, it can make a big difference.
Absolutely. You save
That's
a life.
pretty naive, isn't it?
No, that's beautiful. You could save a life. Keep speaking that same message, because it's very important for people to hear.
Why is it so hard, though, for people to find that, Angie? I don't understand.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I don't understand about the complexity of the human.
It hurts my heart. I mean, I literally, physically, emotionally get so hurt when I see other people hurt.
Right.
It just... It'll actually make me sick sometimes, because I feel very empathetic.
Right.
I think it was Star Trek, The New Generation, Commander Troy. She was an empath, and she physically felt it.
Okay.
I don't know that I can. Sometimes I do physically feel that pain of someone else, but I truly do identify and feel that emotional pain of people I connect with.
Right.
And it hurts.
It does. It physically hurts. And the tears came to your eyes as you were even sharing that. It's real.
Such a baby.
It's real. It's very real. You care about people. And I'm so glad that you're in the position that you are, the platform that you are as a professor at Georgia Highlands, to share that same empathy to students in human services degree, to let them know, care about people. Care about people, do no harm, and be intentional about reaching out to those that are hurting in your circle of influence.
And suicide is, I mean, you hear so many times, oh, if I, only if I'd have been there, if only, the only ifs.
Right.
I call them coulda, shoulda, woulda, oughtas, and what ifs.
Yeah.
How true they are.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't take, it's not that hard to say, hey, is everything going okay today?
Right.
And really listen instead of saying, hey, how are you doing? Fine. And off you go. Yeah.
Right.
Which is our typical modus operandi, because we are busy people.
Sure.
But if we can just take that time. I'll never forget a student. I'll share a story. I noticed she was coming to classes with bruises. And I've asked her if I could share this before. I won't share her name, but she said, oh, sure, because she laughed after. But she kept coming to class with bruises. This went on for about a week, and it was obvious fingerprint bruises. Okay. And I finally said, Jane, we'll just call her Jane, generic name. You may get really mad at me, and if you do, I'm sorry, but I'm concerned. I see bruises on you constantly. They're fingerprints. It's someone hurting you. Yeah. And she looked at me, and she started laughing. She says, yes and no. My son has autism, and he bruises me. He said, but you know what? You're the only person. I have friends, family, other teachers. You're the only one who said, are you okay? And are you being harmed?
Okay.
And to me, that was like, I made a fool out of myself, because I was like, oh, I'm so stupid. I'm so sorry. And she said, no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we have to do. We have to have courage. We have to be brave.
Yeah. It took a lot of bravery for you to ask that. Yeah.
At the time, I didn't feel like I was just like, oh, I'm going to get sick.
Yeah.
And I was actually very relieved and glad that it was something very explainable.
Right.
Instead of, I'm being harmed. Yeah. But when you ask that question, be ready.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, because that's the internal conversation of most people when they see it. Should I say something? Should I not say something? What if I do say something? I embarrass her. I don't want to get embarrassed. What if she doesn't talk to me? What if she hates me? But you stepped through that and went ahead and asked her. And the reality was, thank you for asking.
And see, I'm not anything. I don't want anybody to think I'm anything special. Everybody's special, and everybody can do that same thing. Angie, we're running out of time, and I hate this because there's so much to talk about. Because I want to get the elephant out of the room. Okay. I want people to know what suicide intervention, prevention, and postvention is. So I really cannot thank you enough for joining me on GHC Coffee Break today. Get your coffee, and we'll be right back.
Hi, may I please have an application? Thank you.
Skip the drama. Get your diploma.
Okay.
Take that first step towards a better future. Find free adult education classes at finishyourdiploma.org.
Welcome back to GHC Coffee Break. I just want to again say thank you to Angie for joining us to talk about a pretty hard-hitting subject. I know that real quickly, in the next couple of seconds, I want to remind people of the Mardi Gras beads. Real quick, what do they mean?
Purple, I've lost someone I love to suicide. Green, I myself struggle with a mental health issue, depression, anxiety. Gold, I support the cause.
And I believe you have a couple of cards and a sticker, real quick.
I do. The 1-800-273-TALK is for the veterans. It takes the strength of a warrior to ask for help. Press 1, you go straight to a veteran to be able to share information on your struggles.
Awesome. Thank you, Angie. Join us next time on GHC Coffee Break.